Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you for coming at such an early hour. I really appreciate it. And I do see the irony that I'm talking about AI and it takes us 10 minutes to set up a PowerPoint. So I hope this sets off the morning on a funny note for you, if nothing else. I'm Divya Gupta. I'm the Chief Growth Officer for Cure AI. I'm not a doctor, like many of you today, but I do know that I'm a dreamer, like all of you who I saw yesterday and who will be here today, who believe that one day technology and policy will come together to improve patient care. So I'll be talking a little bit about how we can cast a wider net for detection of lung cancer. And I hope this works. Yeah, I think I won't spend too much time on this because I think everyone in this group is very, very well aware about the lethality and the prevalence of lung cancer that we deal with. And the biggest challenge, of course, is with the fact that we detect it so late. And that, of course, presents primarily because of the symptoms, and the symptoms come up so late. A lot of the discussion yesterday was about how can we actually implement lung cancer screening? How can we actually drive policy to adopt lung cancer screening? But what we also know is that CT-based lung cancer reporting is not has its own challenges when it comes to inter-reader variability, sensitivity issues, missing of pulmonary nodules. The point that I will address today is the limited availability itself of CT scans and the fact that a large part of the world is not going to be able to afford doing CT-based screenings at a mass level for at least the short-term future. One of the questions that we have been dabbling with in Cure is that there are over 2 billion X-rays done globally today for various different reasons, from lung infections, tuberculosis, just a benign cough. And is there a way for us to cast a wider net for earlier detection of lung nodules using these chest X-rays? We are not talking about patients who are symptomatic. We are not talking about patients who would be invited to a screening program. We are actually talking of patients who would probably never get invited to a screening program, even in a country where one exists. So we are really talking about patients or healthy individuals who will never get to know that they are actually lung cancer patients because they never presented any symptoms of nodules. What I will do today is share some examples of the studies that we have been conducting across the world and share some of the insights that we've been finding. We started working with AstraZeneca a few years ago to be able to drive this project. And the chairman of AstraZeneca spoke at the World Economic Forum last year. It's happening in parallel this year too, where he actually committed that 5 million, he wants to drive the diagnosis or the early scanning of 5 million patients across the world to be able to see if chest X-rays in the under-resourced part of the world can actually help in driving earlier detection. If you see, we've reached about 10% of that goal in the last 1 year. So we've been able to scan around 568,000 X-rays, out of which we found about 1% have high lung nodule malignancy scores. And I'll talk a little bit more about the examples going forward. This is a separate project which we are doing together with the NHS in England, in NHS trusts. I think one of our colleagues from Germany yesterday mentioned that UK has the lowest prevalence of CT per patient or CT per population in Europe. And one of the challenges that the NHS faces is massive backlogs driven by radiologist shortage. And so they have a massive backlog of chest X-rays. One of the challenges that they are dealing with is that they're not being able to report chest X-rays for over 2 weeks and sometimes even longer. And they publicly report this data, which also means that patients who could potentially have lung nodules don't get detected and are not given a referring CT scan. So the research that we are doing with the SBRI is actually to showcase that if you use AI-based triaging to look for lung nodules, you're able to actually turn around the report faster. And preliminary data already shows that the reference to the next CT, the low-dose CT scan, is made in less than half the time that it would otherwise take in a manual process. This is the example that I will spend the most time on. This is an example from Vietnam, where we were already running a tuberculosis detection drive. As you know, tuberculosis is a massive problem in large parts of the world, in Asia and Africa, not so much in the US and in Western Europe. And it continues to be a massive killer because, again, the symptoms seem so benign and it doesn't get detected. What we did was we had 36,000 X-rays, which were anyway being collected because of the tuberculosis drive that we are running with WHO. And we processed all of them through our chest X-ray AI solution, also to look for lung nodules. This is something that we had to take special permission for, because as you know, a physician doesn't want to know more information than necessary because it was a tuberculosis drive. So why are you telling me about lung nodules? So this was an extra study that we had to conduct. And we were able to actually find 259 nodules from these cases. Only about 111 patients agreed to do a CT as a next step. As it was discussed often yesterday, there's a lot of stigma attached to getting a follow-up CT, getting a diagnosis. Because this person, like someone told me in the bus yesterday, this person is not a patient. It's a healthy individual who doesn't want to know that there might be something wrong. And out of those, we found 28 confirmed cases with malignant nodules. The study is still ongoing. We are following up on these patients to find out what happens with their biopsy results, what happens with their prognosis. But this is just to demonstrate an example that out of the 2 billion chest X-ray scans that are happening anyway, there are a lot of insights that we can generate if we were to run an analysis on them. Now, it is not possible to do always manually, and that's where the role of AI comes in, to be able to augment the insights that we gain to drive a population health kind of an effort. One of the questions I get asked very often when we present this slide is, won't there be an excess of CT referrals? Because you will add doubt, you will add confusion, so there will be more CTs that will get ordered, which is unnecessary. So we've initiated a study called the CREATE study, the details of which are publicly available. The study is a randomized controlled trial. The the population that we are addressing is anyone above 35 years of age. Now, this is very different from the population that is being targeted by the lung cancer screening, which is anywhere between 50 to 55 and above, other than Egypt, where we heard it was lower. Now, these are patients who have been referred for a chest X-ray for various different reasons. As I said, it could be a cough, it could be some kind of a TB symptom, any reason but not lung cancer. So these are patients who have chest X-ray being prescribed anyway. Once we have the consent from these patients, we will actually run the chest X-ray AI solution on these scans and differentiate between high lung nodule malignancy score and low lung nodule malignancy score. This is a score that we are generating based on the AI tool that we have developed. And we will compare this score head to head with the manually observed lung RAD score on a low dose CT. So this is really trying to compare on the ground truth, which is the radiologist determined lung RAD score. Further, we will follow up the patient for 2 years. The aim is really to prove that can an AI-based lung nodule malignancy score based on chest X-rays be used as a potential way for casting a wider net on a population which would otherwise never get called for a lung cancer screening program. This is a study which has been initiated in partnership with AstraZeneca. We have started the recruitment in Aarti Labs, which is a diagnostic chain in India, and we are expanding the recruitment of this in Southeast Asia and Middle East. Just to end with a little bit more about the company that I represent, Cure, we are an AI company which is present in more than 80 countries across the world. We are present in 1,400 sites, and we process 200 million scans already. Not all of which are for lung cancer. The reason I wanted to emphasize this is that this is not technology which is coming out of a university or which is something that we are dabbling with in a lab. This is really well-established technology which is being widely used across the world. The solution that I have been referring to in the course of my talk is QXR, which is a chest X-ray AI solution. It is regulatory approved in most parts of the world, including the US and in Western Europe. We are deployed in more than 700 sites with this solution, and we process 4.5 million scans to be able to train this data set. Besides lung nodule, of course, this solution was originally made for tuberculosis detection. And from there, it started growing. The solution actually saw its widest adoption during the Corona pandemic, where there was a massive challenge with respect to processing scans. And actually, Italy was the first site which said, can you do more than tuberculosis? We also have a QCT, which is a lung CT-based solution, AI solution, to be able to not only detect lung nodules, but also characterize them. So volumetry, as well as characterization based on calcification, speculation, etc., and do longitudinal analysis. Our research shows that we are able to reduce the time that physicians spend on lung nodule detection and follow-up, the manual time spent to measure and follow up, as well as reduce the inter-reader variability with respect to lung nodules. That's all I had for my talk. So I think I have done well with respect to time, and I'm open to any questions that you might have.
You didn't say what happened to those patients. Is there an intervention, or do you just follow them for 2 years?
The CREATE study has just started this year. So we are still in the recruitment phase. So there will be an intervention if the final diagnosis will be based on the low dose CT. And then based on that, there will be an intervention plan. We don't have that data yet, so I can't. Yeah, the research is available on the clinical trials website.